Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're travelling from the historic maritime city of Hull all the way to the heart of London as we make our way to London King's Cross. Along the way we'll be calling at Brough, Howden, Selby, Doncaster, Retford and Grantham before completing our journey on the famous East Coast Mainline. This route combines Victorian engineering, high-speed railway operation, a fascinating history, and some beautiful Yorkshire and Lincolnshire countryside. So sit back, relax and enjoy the journey. We begin here at Hull Paragon, one of Britain's finest Victorian railway stations. Opened in 1847 by the York and North Midland Railway, the station was designed as a grand gateway to the city, reflecting Hull's importance as one of Britain's busiest ports. Today it remains the transport hub for East Yorkshire, served by local, regional and long-distance trains alongside buses and coaches. Hull has always been closely connected with the sea. For centuries, it was one of Britain's leading fishing ports, while today it continues to handle freight and passenger ferries across the North Sea. Leaving the city behind, we head west through the suburbs before entering the open countryside that stretches towards the Humber estuary. Our first stop is Brough. Although it may appear to be a quiet town today, Brough has played an important role in British aviation history. It became home to the Blackburn Aircraft Company, later BAE Systems, where famous aircraft such as the Buccaneer were designed and built. Even today, the airfield remains an important aerospace site. The railway here was built during the Great Railway boom of the 19th century, providing Hull with an increasingly fast connection to the rest of the country. The route is relatively straight, allowing trains to make good progress as we continue west through the gently rolling landscape of East Yorkshire. Our next stop is Howden, a historic market town whose skyline is dominated by the magnificent tower of Howden Minster. Dating back to the Middle Ages, the Minster has stood here for centuries and remains one of Yorkshire's most impressive ecclesiastical buildings. The surrounding countryside is remarkably flat. We're travelling across the Vale of York, an area shaped by rivers and centuries of land drainage. Much of the farmland we see today was once marshland before being reclaimed for agriculture. Soon we arrive at Selby, one of the most significant railway locations in northern England. Selby became an important railway junction shortly after the opening of the original railway in the 1830s, with routes radiating towards Hull, Leeds and York. Just beyond the station lies one of the most fascinating engineering stories on Britain's railway network. During the 1970s, large coal reserves were discovered beneath the original East Coast Mainline north of Selby. Mining threatened to cause ground subsidence that could have seriously damaged the railway. Rather than accept that risk, British Rail constructed an entirely new high-speed railway around the west of Selby. Opened in 1983, the Selby Diversion remains the route used by today's express trains heading towards London. Selby itself is also famous for its beautiful abbey, which has overlooked the town for almost 1,000 years. Leaving Selby, we soon join the modern high-speed route at Hirst Junction. From this point onwards, we're travelling on one of Britain's most famous railways, the East Coast Mainline. The East Coast Mainline links London with Yorkshire, the North East and Scotland. It is one of Europe's great intercity railways and carries a remarkable mixture of traffic. Alongside LNER's flagship high-speed services, you'll also find Hull Trains, Lumo, Grand Central, and a constant procession of freight trains carrying containers, steel, biomass, aggregates, and other goods between ports, distribution centres, and industrial regions. The route is fully electrified, allowing modern trains to cruise at speeds of up to 125 miles per hour, while sharing the railway safely with slower passenger and freight services through sophisticated signalling and traffic management systems. Before long, we arrive at Doncaster, one of Britain's greatest railway towns. Since the middle of the 19th century, Doncaster has been at the heart of the nation's railway network. Immediately north of the station once stood the famous Doncaster Works, known simply as the plant. This enormous engineering complex built and maintained many of Britain's most celebrated steam locomotives, including Flying Scotsman and Mallard, designed under the legendary Sir Nigel Gresley. Even today, Doncaster remains one of the country's busiest railway junctions. Routes branch away towards Sheffield, Leeds, Hull, Lincoln and the north, while freight services from across Britain converge here before continuing to destinations throughout the country. Leaving Doncaster, our train quickly accelerates back to line speed as we continue south through South Yorkshire into Nottinghamshire. Our next stop is Retford, another important railway junction. Although relatively small, Retford plays a key role because this is where the line to Lincoln diverges from the East Coast Mainline. One unusual feature of Retford is that it actually has two stations on different levels. The upper station serves the East Coast Mainline, while the lower station carries trains between Sheffield and Lincoln. It's a fascinating example of Victorian railway engineering, with two independent routes crossing one another. Beyond Retford, the countryside becomes increasingly rural. Long straight stretches of railway allow trains to maintain maximum speed for many miles, demonstrating just how well the East Coast Mainline was engineered by its Victorian builders. The next stop is Grantham, another historic market town with strong railway connections. The station opened in the early days of the Great Northern Railway and soon became an important stopping point for expresses travelling between London and the north. Just south of Grantham, we pass Stoke Tunnel, one of the oldest major tunnels on the East Coast Mainline. Opened in 1852, it remains in daily use and is a reminder of the enormous engineering achievements of the Victorian railway pioneers. From here, the railway continues across the rolling countryside of Lincolnshire before passing Peterborough, another major railway hub, where routes branch towards Cambridge, Leicester, Birmingham and East Anglia. As we continue south, the landscape gradually changes. The open countryside gives way to larger towns, suburban developments, and increasingly busy railway traffic as we approach Greater London. Passing through places such as Stevenage and Finsbury Park, the number of trains increases dramatically. Commuter services, high-speed expresses and freight trains all share the same infrastructure, making this one of the busiest sections of railway anywhere in the United Kingdom. Finsbury Park is particularly significant because several major routes diverge here towards Cambridge, Hertford and Moorgate, while our train continues along the final few miles into central London. Ahead, the magnificent arched roof of London King's Cross comes into view. Opened in 1852, King's Cross is one of Britain's most iconic railway stations. Following an extensive restoration and redevelopment, it now combines its beautiful Victorian architecture with modern facilities while serving millions of passengers every year. The station is known around the world not only for its railway heritage, but also as the fictional home of Platform 9 and 3/4 from the Harry Potter stories, making it one of London's most recognisable landmarks. That brings us to the end of our journey from Hull to London King's Cross. We've travelled from the Humber estuary through the heart of Yorkshire, joined the famous East Coast Mainline, passed some of Britain's most historic railway towns, and experienced one of the country's premier high-speed rail routes. I hope you've enjoyed coming along for the ride and perhaps learned something new about the history, engineering and operation of this fascinating railway. If you have enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and fellow railway enthusiasts, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for many more driver's eye view journeys, route learning videos and railway history features from across the UK. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.